Put this- Okay, so welcome guys. Good afternoon and welcome to this first Zoom of the fifth model about learning networks. Today we have with us Professor Carlos Alario Hoyos. He's an associate professor at the Department of Telematics Engineering at University Carlos III in Madrid. He has a PhD degree in Information and Communication Technologies from University of Valladolid, that is in Madrid too. And his main research interests include MOOCs, interoperability, and software educational tools. But today he's going to talk about uh, learning methods, but also about AI, that is like really actual topic. So thank you, Carlos, and welcome to the today's session.
Well, thank you very much, Albert. Thank you, Malak and Mal, for being here today. It's a pleasure for me, and I really appreciate the invitation to be with you guys again. Let me start sharing my screen. We should be here. And of course, I'm going to talk about one of the hot topics at the moment, that is artificial intelligence, particularly generative artificial intelligence, and how this is affecting all of us these days. I have a very special interest in this line, not only as a professor, as a teacher, but also as a researcher, as my or the evolution in my research activities have gone through learning methodologies, collaborative learning, MOOCs, and now you need to move to this hot topic in order to have also projects to be implemented. This is my menu for today. So first of all, I'm going to talk about advances, and especially some of the latest advances. Then I'm going to talk about how these advances in generative AI are affecting us in education as a teacher, but also from the perspective of learner. Then I'm going to be a bit cautious on how generative AI is being used and how we can use it better, and how we can be a bit careful when we are deploying generative AI in education. And finally, I have some final thoughts and last thoughts before I finish. So let's start with the first part and with all these advances. I'm sure you are very aware that the concept of artificial intelligence is not new at all. So it's actually from the 50s when it was coined. And there has been different topics inside AI that had some impact. So machine learning is from the 60s, which is the base of the next big topic that has been generative AI. That is from the 80s, so it's quite old, although the big advances have been done in the last few years. We talk about large language models after a publication by Google in 2018, and then this was the big hype of the potential of this technology, large language models. And then if we talk about conversational agents, this is a topic that goes back to the 60s, to the first conversational agents, but ChatGPT, of course, was released in November 2022. And the next big model that took also the world by storm, the GPT-4, it's from the 2023. Since then, there has been a lot of advances. So, let me focus on this idea. We have this new concept. It has large language models, and they are able to create content like humans, at least words. They are the magicians of words. And we expected that we as humans, we have something that is we have something that is the language. And we were not expecting that a machine could also master the way it does the use of the language properly. And this has happened due to three key elements that I would like to highlight here that has been the basis for the development of these large language models that are all over the news and generative AI. So on one side, we reached to the point in which we were able to get a large amount of data on many different sources, formats, structures. And this has happened especially after 2002, when the amount of digital information that we had was more than the number of the amount of non-digital information that we had. Since then, we had a exponential growth in the number of resources, digital resources, that we as humans were able to generate. So this amount of information was used to train these large language models. So apart from this, we have the big computational capabilities that we have today. So hardware is also evolving at a very fast pace. You probably have heard about Moore's law. So the number of transistor in a computer doubles after a number of years. And of course, these large computational capabilities have been developed by some big tech companies. So one of the companies that benefited the most of this evolution of generative AI and large language model has been NVIDIA, the US company, the manufacturer of microchips, which of course in the last years it went very, very high in terms of the stock, although in the last few weeks after DeepSeek, it also decreased a bit in the stock market. And then there has been also important advances in the way we are able to produce learning models in order to use the data as training in order to develop these large language models. So the learning models have been evolving also in terms of machine learning and what is called deep learning. And let me also give you a bit of context on this. So there has been several moments in deep learning that have been key in the development of generative AI. So we can talk of first phase in 1.0, where we had supervised learning. So there were humans tagging information, can be text, it can be pictures. So tagging precisely information, which was very extensive in terms of the human resources that were needed. And these models were able of doing just one single task. So imagine that I give you a set of pictures and you have to identify which pictures represent a flower. So this model is able to detect in flowers. So this was the first phase. Then we had the second phase where we had what is called a self-supervised learning, where the models are able to predict what's going next. Text models are able to predict what's the next character, what's the next word, what's the next token that is going to be used. And the models that work with images are able to predict what's the next pixel that will appear in this image. This is the era of what we call as the foundational pre-trained models. These are the GPTs from which ChatGPT comes from. And these models are able to do, or are able of doing several tasks at the same time, not only one task like identifying a picture. So these are able to create text in different formats. These are able to create pictures and of different types and so on. And then we are more or less in a third era when we have what is called the reinforcement learning. So humans reinforce the result provided by this model. So we can say that if we receive 4 pictures, we say which is better, so we take it. Or if we get a certain text from a large language model, we say, okay, this text is good quality, or I don't like this text, give me another version. So this is the reinforcement that is being used. Okay, so this era will be more and more connected with all the kinds of interfaces. So we started using ChatGPT as a web application, but of course, after that, we had a mobile app, and then it's going to be integrated in many different devices, like your smart speakers, or it will end up integrated in your glasses, maybe, or in your car, or any other possible devices where we can have this kind of large language models. So, of course, there's a hype every time we talk of a certain new technology. This is Gartner, probably you know, this hype cycle that repeats every time when we talk about certain technologies. So there is a moment where we have some innovation trigger, then we reach a peak of inflated expectations. The expectation this technology is going to solve everything. There is some kind of disillusionment, and finally we have the plateau of productivity, where we have the actual applications that use this technology in a proper way. So this was the hype cycle for 2022. Generative AI was here. So it was before ChatGPT was released on November 30th of 2022. After that, in 2023, we reached the peak, according to Gartner. 2024, we are going through this disillusionment. The chart of 2025 has not been published yet. But still, it's important to understand the hype and the actual technology and the potential that this technology has. So if we talk about large language model, what we are doing, and probably you know it very well, is we're going to predict the next token, the next word. It can be a word, but it can be a token. It can be a part of a word that is going to be used. In order to do that, what we take is an input, and we split this input into tokens. So this is the next part. Then we convert these tokens into a vector, kind of a matrix with numbers that gets you the relationship with other words. And then we pass this through the transformer model, the GPT model, that is able to analyze the relationship between words that are close to each other, so that we produce an output, and this is the output that the user will get if using a certain assistant like ChatGPT. And the thing with large language models is that there has been a lot of competition, and there has been a high evolution in the last couple of years with a lot of big players. So actually, we can say that large language models are published almost every week, and almost every week we get new models. Probably you know several of the big providers. So we have on one side OpenAI with the GPT models. We have Google with the Gemini models. We have Claude with the Claude models. We have XAI from Elon Musk with Grok, and several other models. So here I get this table that actually comes from the month of February. So only a few models that have been published in February. Just highlighting in yellow some of the big ones with the latest, the GPT 4.5 that was released last week. And there is relevant information here. For example, the tokens that are used and the tokens that support each model, and how they are doing in terms of some benchmarks. So in order to measure the quality of the outputs of these models, there are some benchmarks that are typically used. And this goes better and better. And of course, there is the promise that there will be more and more and more of these models, and that these models will be much better. So if you try one of these models today, like 4.5 or GPT, I don't know if you have done it already, and you compare it with the results of the 3.5 that we got at the beginning, so you will see definitely an evolution in the output that you will get. And there will be more coming probably very soon from these big players. In order to compare the large language models, there are also some leaderboards that I like to have a look at from time to time. For example, this is one of the leaderboards. This is the LM Arena. And here you can compare how these models behave according to different benchmarks and according to different categories. So depending on the type of task that you provide to these models. In this case, the way this is measured is like the ELO in chess. So basically, you give two models a certain task, and you assess which model did better. So this model will gain points, and the other will lose points, following this ELO way of classifying that also is used in chess. So if we look at the overall picture here, you will see this is from yesterday, I guess, yesterday or the day before. So it's Grok, the one is on top, but GPT-4 is also leading this part. If you look specifically for mathematical operations, now GPT 4.5 is doing also very well. If you look, for example, at coding, I am an engineer working on programming. So if you look at coding, also GPT 4.5 is doing very well, with other models also doing very well and seeing a rapid increase in these last few years. So this is if we talk about text, if we talk about large language models. But there are also models that have been created in the last few years and that have exploded for image creation, for video creation, for audio creation. So this is, for example, the evolution of Midjourney from the first version in 2020, I think it's 1.2, and one of the latest versions is 2024. So if you see the evolution of the kind of pictures that could be created with the same prompt, you see that this is astonishing. So it's, you can say that there is a big jump between the versions, and we are getting used to seeing pictures created by AI all over the time. So they are all over the news, they are all over the internet. We are getting used to seeing videos created by AI also all over the news, all over the internet, all right? And we see this evolution, and at some point it's very difficult to detect if a picture like this has been created by AI or has been taken by a professional photographer, right? So if we talk about these models, there are differences depending on if we talk of text generation, if we talk about image generation, video generation, audio generation. So there are some models that are leading the state of the art in these cases, so like GPT or Claude for text, DALI or Stable Diffusion or Midjourney for images, Sora from OpenAI, also Pika Labs, Runway for video, and some others for audio. And they support some input, typically it's a text, but sometimes we can add some pictures to be used as a base to create more pictures or to be used as a base to create a video. And the models that are used are different. So we have the transformer-based models in the case of text. We have what is called the diffusion models in the case of images. We have an evolution of the diffusion models for the creation of videos, spatiotemporal diffusion models. And then we also use some diffusion models with additional specific models for the creation of audio, okay? So, and with this we get text, we get images or variations of images that we pass, we get full motion video, we get audio waveforms, okay? And something important is text is less computationally expensive. Image is more computationally expensive, as it is also audio. And if we want to create video, it's really, really computationally expensive. So the tools that there are at the moment in order to create video will need more resources, many more resources. And typically it's very difficult to find free versions of these tools. And if they are, they only give you just a few seconds of production of video by AI because it's very computationally expensive. So we have all these models. And on top of these models that allow creation of text, image, audio, video, we put tools. The tools that are built on these models and that will give you an interface so that you can use these tools directly and you don't care that much about these models, okay? And these tools are at the moment supporting different inputs and providing different outputs, okay? Some of these tools, the most famous ones, are AI assistants or chatbots, and I'm sure you use them many of your daily routines. So I have here some of the most famous AI assistants. So ChatGPT is the most famous one, but it uses a model or a set of models, the GPT 3.5, 4, 4.0, 03 mini, GPT 4.5. The same happens with Gemini, DeepSeek. The problem is sometimes the model shares the name with the chatbot and shares the name with the company, as it is with Claude. So Claude is the company, is the chatbot, and it uses a model that the most advanced one is the version 3.7. The case of OpenAI is the company, ChatGPT is the tool, and the models GPT-4, GPT 4.5, okay? And on top of this, there are many tools and there are many business models. And if you go to social media and start digging a bit on what's going on with generative AI and AI in particular, you will see hundreds, you will see thousands of tools and attempts to compile in more or less organized lists the number of tools that are there. And this is an explosion because everybody's taking advantage of these models in order to create their own tools. Sometimes in a reasonable way, providing something new, and sometimes just copying what other tools doing, okay? So we see this all over the news. If you follow, I don't know, you follow X, you follow LinkedIn, you see a lot of people saying, nah, this is the ultimate list of Gen AI tools that you need to master in order to do whatever, all right? But these tools are on top of the large language models, diffusion models that have been created. And even the most famous tools that we know are evolving at a very fast pace. So let me mention a few things here. For example, I told you I'm doing computing. So in August, Claude, the AI assistant Claude, released something that was very interesting. So if you wanted some kind of code and this code could be executed, you get what was called an artifact in order to execute that code. For example, like a website with HTML code. So there was a big advance. In September, Google with Gemini, in one of the main tools that Google provided, is called Notebook LM, provided the functionality to create podcast with AI. And these podcasts were created just uploading a file. So you uploaded a PDF and you got a podcast of two people talking about the content of this PDF automatically in just a couple of minutes. So that was quite surprising. In October, ChatGPT with the model 4.0 released what is called the Canvas. So this is a step forward compared to the artifacts of Claude. Here I asked for some code. I got the code in a new window that appeared, and I could modify the code directly and ask the code to run, if possible, here directly in this Canvas, and even get specific explanations on the code that was provided, all right, inside ChatGPT. So this was definitely a big improvement. And also ChatGPT has recently released what is called the ChatGPT search option. So you go to ChatGPT, if you use it frequently, you will see it. So this is a search option that searches on the internet and compiles or gets information in order to compile it and provide an answer. And this is intended to replace traditional Google search and even Perplexity, that was one of the tools at the beginning that had some success because it was able to search information on the internet and provide some references on the information that was searched. Also, recently in December, and this has been released little by little in several tools, we got something called deep research mode. I saw this early in February in ChatGPT, but it went before in Perplexity and also in Gemini. So here the idea is that the chatbot is able to check the website, check different documents, and then analyze them before providing a tool. And this takes time. So for example, this took like 5 minutes and to get the answer, and I got or at least I got information that ChatGPT checked 20 documents before providing the answer. Okay, so you need some patience. This is a process that is taking more time, but you're getting higher quality outputs. And this is evolving very, very fast. So ChatGPT, for example, released what is called the operator, and it released it like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And this is the next step of what is called the agentic AI. So agentic AI is a new trend in which an AI, typically generative AI, is going to be able to do tasks using some planning and reasoning and using additional tools like your web browser or like tools that you have installed locally in order to, I don't know, open a document and then read it and then create a document in this format. No? So one of the use cases here was finding a tour in Rome on TripAdvisor. So it was able here to control the website, go to TripAdvisor, go to check the number of stars of each of the tours, and then return one of the outputs. No? And this is the idea of the agent. So it takes more control on the task without the need of human intervention in the process. Yesterday, I heard about this Chinese AI that claims also to be very efficient as an agentic AI. In this case, the use case was, I'm going to upload 10 resumes of people, the CVs, and then I want you to give me a spreadsheet containing the assessment of these 10 resumes. No? And this is able to plan tasks and then read the documents and then get to the result and then create the corresponding spreadsheet on its own, just by using the first instruction. So this is the evolution that we're going to see in this 2025. And this is the evolution of agentic AI. And it's important to distinguish between agentic AI or agents and assistants. So assistants, we typically have a back and forth iteration. So we send a prompt, we get an answer, prompt, answer, and so on. And the agentic AI is able to do more tasks on its own. And it has some components that are important, like memory to store information, and has access to tools like web browsers, search engine, and so on. And it's able to plan and reflect a bit more before providing an answer. Okay. So this is the idea of agentic AI. So basically there could be a query of the user, then the agentic AI will make some plan, try to execute the plan, the actions in the plan using the tools that are available, and then reflect a bit on the results before returning the response to the user. So this is what's now a trend, and is something that is being implemented in different tools. So comparing AI assistants, that's what we knew at the moment, and then agents. So the agents have more independence to be able to operate and have access to additional tools and able to complete their tasks. Okay, and can do more complex tasks and divide them into subtasks and take care of them. So this is the evolution in just a few months, including things that happened last week. So we are seeing changes that are very, very fast. And I could say the change is even at an exponential growth. And we as humans are definitely very, very bad at taking decisions when the change is exponential. And we saw this during the pandemic. So we started with very, very low numbers at the beginning. So nothing happens, nothing really is happening at the moment. And then you see the numbers growing at an exponential growth rate. And then, wow, we don't know what to do now. No, we need to make very, very hard decisions, and there is no time. No, we should have reacted earlier. And this is one of the big problems when things change so fast. So to close this part, I would say that it's completely understandable to feel overwhelmed by the advances that we see on AI, especially if you follow the news, if you follow experts on this field every day, you will see, wow, this is going so fast. I'm really overwhelmed. I cannot deal with more information at the moment. And it happens to me. So this could be me, this guy could be me with the beard and the glasses, and I really feel overwhelmed from time to time. Let me make this joke here, so to show you how I feel very overwhelmed. So this is the pressure that I'm feeling every day because I need to learn a lot of new things and I cannot keep the pace that it should, all right? So this is the first part. We are seeing a very fast evolution on AI, especially in generative AI, and this is changing many things at the moment. What is changing, of course, is changing education. This is why we're here. So generative AI is changing education. Let me start by reflecting on something, and is we have now this new technology and is completely disrupting and making obsolete the traditional model of education. A traditional model that was focused mainly on delivery of content, so it's the traditional lecture model. But now we have tools that can summarize a lot of information, can explain it a lot of times in different ways until I get the actual concept or the actual idea. They can explain complex charts, complex pictures. So why do I need the lecture model at the moment? No, this is one of the things. And the other one is we still have students, and students want to learn, and we need to assess students and certify their knowledge. But now they have powerful tools that can help them in the process. And how do I really know what the student knows and when the student got help from AI tools? No? So this is a reflection also that we should do. In this context, I can find different types of teachers, different types of professors that are reacting in a different way to this trend. So I would say that there are several ways in which we can face this. One of the ways is this is a threat. Let's ban everything on AI. Our students need to come to the class as they did in the last 100 years or 200 years, and they cannot use ChatGPT or any other tool because this is cheating, this is lack of academic integrity. So I don't want this. Okay, this is one of the reactions. Another possible reaction is, well, AI is irrelevant. This is a passing trend, as many other passing trends, and I'm not going to pay attention. I'm going to keep doing my things, and I don't care if the students use it or not. Well, that's very relevant. Another possibility is, okay, AI is solving everything. Let's use AI now. Everything has to have AI because it's important. It's like the times I remember everything had to have Bluetooth technology because it was everywhere. Your toothbrush will have Bluetooth because it's important. Why? I don't know. It's the technological trend. No, so but it's not a magic solution. And then probably the most reasonable one for me is trying to have this as a useful tool, another companion, another copilot, as Microsoft says, that can help you in many different tasks in your daily routines. So I can have these professors that can be classified in these 2x2 matrix depending on the expectations that they have from AI, so higher or lower expectations, and the awareness, the real awareness of the AI capabilities. So I'm more inclined to this part here. So I have high expectations, but I'm also aware of what can be really done with AI. So I'm more this kind of guy here. And what I believe it's important, and I try to transmit to others that I have conversations with, is we need to have some cultural changes. We need to change the routines that we're doing. So today, if, I don't know, you're having a meeting with somebody, have you thought how AI can help you in that? Or you need to do a report or a project proposal for your research activities, or a state of the art on whatever research you're doing. Have you tried or checked how AI can help you on that? So this is my vision. No? For example, imagine that you need to prepare a course and you have a meeting with your colleagues, several professors, in order to prepare a course. Can you use AI somehow? So for example, maybe you have the meeting, as we have here, we can record it, and the recording can be transcribed automatically. So this can be done. Or I can have an AI taking notes. Here you have a couple of them, but there are many AIs taking notes. And then I can ask my AI assistant, okay, let's list the main decisions. Let's create a table with actions. Let's put names to the actions, so roles to the actions, calendar, and so on. So there are things that AI can help you in all this process, right? Okay. Beyond this, there is a big disruption in several of the daily routines that we have as professors, as teachers. No? And let me mention some. One is the creation of educational content. So we can create much more content in different formats faster. We can provide support to students in different ways using these AI assistants and also agents. And of course, we need to rethink assessment. Assessment doesn't make sense in the way we were doing assessment. So let me start by creation of educational content, and then I will move forward to the rest. So creation of educational content starts by the course design. So of course you can use an AI assistant to help you on the course design, depending on the type of course that you want. I was testing this 4.5 ChatGPT with the deep research mode. And something interesting is that I had several iterations with it in which ChatGPT asked me about important things about the syllabus that I wanted to create, learning objectives, and so on. So what's your target audience? Have you reflected on this? What is, for example, the competency framework? Are you using Bloom's taxonomy? So this is an iteration in order to improve the design of the course. This is the first part. Once I have designed a course, structured learning objectives, competencies, and so on, it's time to create content. And in order to create content, of course, we're going to see a lot of video content that is created with AI. It can be, for example, created with avatars. That is now a trend. And this is evolving also very, very, very fast. So the guy that you have here on the right, which is a famous YouTuber on AI, published this video. This is from last year, so the technology has even evolved more. The way the avatar moves. So it's not real. This one on the right is the avatar. This was the first version of the avatar, but this is new version of the avatar. And then something important is automatic dubbing. Of course, I speak Spanish and I can speak English, but maybe I cannot speak other languages. And if I record a video, it takes a lot of time to do the dubbing of the video. No? So there are tools like Rask or HeyGen that can support you in dubbing. Many YouTubers are implementing this automatic dubbing in their channels, in their YouTube channels, and we are seeing this more and more. So just give me an example. So this is me talking Spanish.
En un escenario de docencia síncrona, una herramienta muy importante.
Okay, this is me talking in Spanish. This is me talking in English, dubbed automatically with AI.
In a synchronous teaching scenario, a very important tool is the teacher's own body.
And let me talk also in German, again, dubbed automatically with AI.
In einem synchronen Unterrichtsszenario ist der eigene Körper des Lehrers.
Oops. And this was done last year, so the technology has even evolved more, okay? Now, let me talk about these videos with avatars. There have already been studies saying, okay, is this fine? I mean, how students react to videos with avatars. And I saw one of the papers that was published in, I think it was October or November from a university in Guatemala that are very advanced in creation of videos and video content with avatars. And of course, there is a big reduction of time in creation of videos. This is something that we knew, and we would use it because of this purpose. And the way the tool that they used, that was HeyGen at the time, created the avatars, the videos produced were perceived sufficiently lifelike. But still, if you just use only avatars, it may lead to a decrease in motivation. So it's good to try to combine both things. So we can have some videos with the real professor, and we can have some videos with the avatar. So these are the conclusions. There will be more studies, of course, probably this year on the use of avatars, high quality avatars. Now let me talk about another kind of content that we can have, audio. When we talk about audio, we can create music with AI. There's a big American company called Suno dedicated to that. But for me, something that is important, is a big resource for our students as they are using this more and more, is the use of the podcast. I mentioned before Notebook LM as a tool that can create a podcast automatically based on a PDF file that you upload. No? And I actually uploaded the previous paper, the paper that I mentioned before, to Notebook LM in order to get something like this. I'm just playing 5-6 seconds at the beginning, okay, to see what we can get.
Hey everyone, you know how AI is like the hot topic these days? Well, today we're going to see how it's already changing things in the classroom. So we're going to take a deep dive into this research study from Universidad Galileo in Guatemala. And they were looking specifically at how AI is impacting those huge online courses, you know, the MOOCs. Our mission today is to uncover like the awesome potential of AI in education. And maybe even like, you know, some of the downsides or challenges too.
Yeah, it's fascinating how people think about it.
Okay, so that's it. This is created automatically. There are, of course, some errors. It says MOOC instead of MOOCs. Yeah, there are errors in the process, but you hear the voices, and for me, they sound very natural, like you're listening to a professional podcast or you're listening to the radio in the past, no? So this is done, and this is done in a few seconds, so it can be an engaging type of content for your students. So let me mention a few more things, because there are so many that we could discuss that we don't have the time, but you can go from text to diagrams in case you need. And typically, in order to do that, you go through an intermediate language. Here, what I'm using is I'm going to ChatGPT and I'm asked ChatGPT to create a certain diagram using a language that is called Mermaid. I don't know if you have heard about it, but the idea is, okay, I want to create a mind map in Mermaid. And of course, ChatGPT cannot create a mind map, but it creates this, that is the let's say, code that is interpreted by a Mermaid editor. And basically, you just copy it to a Mermaid Live editor, like the one that I have here. And here I have my mind map. And you can edit this in case you see that there are information that is not consistent, or you need to do changes on it. And the same, for example, to create, it can be diagrams or charts. In this case, I'm having ChatGPT and I'm using Overleaf, that is a LaTeX visualizer, so the language LaTeX. So in this case, I ask, I want to create a pie chart with the GDP of each of the European countries, and I'm going to use LaTeX. So just give me this, and then I just copy it into Overleaf, and I get a chart like this. So this is still text. We're using an intermediate language in order to create images, charts, graphs, many things. All right. And again, there are many tools that are built on the large language models. I'm mentioning one because it's as a curiosity. This is called a study fetch. And the idea of a study fetch is you can upload many different types of resources, like videos, live lectures, documents, audios, and so on. And it can create like notes, flashcards, matching games of concepts, quizzes, and so on. No? So based on one concept, you get many types of resources. And something important, going back to the possibilities that you have here, and for me it's really important, is the connection with the educational ecosystems. So we have learning management systems in a university. It can be Moodle, it can be Canvas, it can be Blackboard. So all these technologies that we're using need to be connected with our ecosystems. Otherwise, There will just be isolated tools that we may use from time to time. But if they are really integrated in Moodle, in Canvas, in my learning management system, then the content I'm creating can be just created with a few clicks and a workflow where you upload information, and it's directly in my Moodle, in my Canvas. So this is an important step. Just to mention a few of two tools that I knew at the very beginning. When I say very beginning, I mean in 2023. This was one of the first tools to be able to create quizzes based on a video or a text. Of course, now it can be done with many other tools. Something that was interesting here is the approach that they had, that they followed Bloom's taxonomy. So you could ask questions depending on the 6 levels of the Bloom's taxonomy. So I think this was interesting. And also, this is another one that I used at the beginning, and the idea that you uploaded a PDF or a video and you got a large number of resources, included something like a glossary of terms, like flashcards, also like a crossword or find a word types of games. This is no longer a novelty, but it was when they were released at 2023. So they added some value up here. So this is about content creation. Let's go to the student support. If we talk about student support, we have AI assistants. So we have ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on. No? And they can help in different types of tasks that affect cognitive processes of the students and also metacognitive processes of the students. So for example, getting step-by-step explanations of a certain topic, of a certain problem. So this can help in, for example, the logical reasoning, depending on the type of problem that I have and how you fragment this problem. And they can also help on the reflection on errors if I did not understand this properly. And the same for other AI tasks, like solving problems, getting instant feedback, assistance with math and science. And it's important to see how they are affecting different cognitive and metacognitive processes, all right? But there is also a challenge here, and this is Salman Khan. This was the founder of the Khan Academy in one of the Netflix documentaries that was released a couple of months ago. There's What's Next, the Future with Bill Gates, the chapter or the documentary specific on AI is, okay, we have these tools, but we want our students to work independently using these tools. So the AI tools should not do the task for them. Students should do, otherwise they will not learn. So how do we do that? How do we follow this approach? This guy that created Khan Academy, I would say more than 15 years ago, worked at the beginning on the integration of an AI assistant, a chatbot in the Khan Academy that worked as a Socratic tutor. So the idea is, I'm not giving you the answer directly. I'm going to try to ask you to reflect on the process to get the answer. Okay, and this was integrated as a chatbot directly in the tool in the Khan Academy, and it was named Khanmigo. So it's amigo means friend in Spanish, so it could be the friend of Khan. And this has been developed also as, for example, isolated GPTs. So you know that in ChatGPT you can create your own, let's say, AI assistants that are tailored to particular behaviors. So this was created as a GPT and had different versions like Khanmigo for coding. Okay, and something important again is how I integrate all these kind of assistants in my learning management system. So this was announced, the integration of Khanmigo with Instructure, that is Canvas. It's one of the big learning management systems. So this was announced some time ago. Also, the MOOC providers, main MOOC providers, Coursera, edX, also have their own chatbots with different behavior. So edX, the brand is called Expert, and in Coursera is called Coursera Coach. So it's not only using ChatGPT, but using assistants that can help you in your metacognitive and cognitive processes. Let me go to the last here in this second part, that is the redesign of assessment systems. So we have two types of assessment, formative and summative assessment. So for the formative assessment, AI tools can be a very interesting tool because they allow us to scale up the formative assessment. So if students need to deliver a task and I have 100 students, I do not have the time to provide formative assessment on time for all of them. With AI tools, I can scale this up. But depending on the subject, this might be a bit difficult. We had a paper published on the use of large language model for formative feedback on a very, very specific programming topic that is concurrent programming, and it didn't work that well. This was from last year. Tools are improving this year. Large language models are improving this year. If we talk about summative assessment, in the case of summative assessment, so I get the task from my students, I need to grade that. I need to provide a grade, I need to provide a score. Something important is that the European Union was the first region in the world in which there was a regulation for AI, the AI Act, and specifically education is one of the activities that is included as high risk. So there should be a quality control and a conformity assessment before an AI own assessment can be used. Especially this is for summative assessment. There are other things like the selection of students, but also the assessment of students. And this is because this may lead to segregation of students or to be used AI in the purpose where you put in danger basic rights, basic human rights. Okay. This is one thing. So I should not use AI for summative assessment unless I have a technology or a solution that pass certain conformity rules. And there is something else that is academic integrity. So this is the other side. This is the side of the student, how the student is using AI, and if the purpose is just cheating or if the purpose is just learning. And here, I would say we have different type of environments where we have to grade our students. Some of them are supervised, some of them are unsupervised. If the environment is supervised, the problem is not that high. If it's unsupervised, the problem is higher. Then we should focus more on the process of learning, taking many more evidences, also using technology instead of the final product. And it's important to have a fair use and ask the students to declare the use of Gen AI. So in our university, for example, is a recommendation on that has been created with the support of teachers and students. But even supervised environments need to be redesigned. So this is just an experiment with glasses by Ray-Ban that are connected to the large language model by Meta, and you just look at a certain document, and the large language model will tell you what's the solution to this problem. Okay, this is a let's say pilot technology will increase, and we will see this next years more and more refined with the best models with the best technology. So this was part number 2. Disruption of AI in education. Let me move to the part number 3, and is the impact of deploying AI in education. So when we are deploying AI, in particular generative AI, we cannot lose our focus. So the focus is that the learner learns whatever we are supposed to provide. The learner is learn whatever he or she is supposed to learn and acquire the competencies that is supposed to acquire. So we cannot forget that. There has been already some studies that are very interesting. So one is called this generative AI can harm learning. And here they compare two things. One is the performance and one is learning. And using, in this case, generative AI in order to complete a set of tasks. The performance of those that used generative AI was higher, the output, but the process was poorer. So the learning was lower in this case. So we need to be careful with that. And also, it's important that the chatbots that we are using, the assistants that we are using, are really designed to guide learning and not to provide the solution directly, as I mentioned before with the case of Salman Khan. All right. Another important study that I would like to mention is this one that was published late last year on an interesting concept that is cognitive offloading. And is the idea of I would say to the AI assistant, do this for me, I rely completely on the result and I don't want to think more. So this is what I get. This must be the truth. So as it happened in the past, Google said this, so this is the truth. ChatGPT says this, so this is the truth. I don't want to think more. This is the idea of cognitive offloading, and it happens differently depending on the age. So younger people tend to be affected more by this idea of cognitive offloading, which has a very high impact on critical thinking. So if you are not able to reason if an answer provided by an AI assistant can be true, false, contains mistakes, and so on, you will not be able to develop critical thinking skills properly. Okay? So there will be, of course, more research on this. I'm sure this year, 2025, we will see much more research on this. So I would like this sentence from Dominic Lux from Oxford. AI should be able to create this scaffolding for the brain, not replace all the learning process. So we should be able to use generative AI in the good way, not in the bad way, just to get the solution and don't care about the actual solution. So when we talk about AI and we use it in education, the message is we need to deploy it carefully. We need to deploy it with care. Okay? But this faces a certain reality, and is that our students are having massive use, are already using massively many of these AI assistants that I mentioned before. Okay, this is the truth. You ask your students and they are using it massively. You have a conversation with them or go on the back to see the computer and they have ChatGPT open. Okay, so something that is important is we as professors and institutions, we can provide some hints, we can provide some recommendations, but we cannot track, we cannot see what the student is actually doing when using ChatGPT. And we cannot use that information even to assess the student properly, to assess the learning process properly, okay? Okay, let me mention here some problems and how we try to solve these problems in the deployment of AI. So the first problem when using these AI assistants is that the AI assistants do not have the context. So the answers that are provided sometimes are non-related to the context of the students. They still contain some hallucinations, although the latest models have improved a lot on that. And something important is we don't have any data of the use of AI by our students, okay? So in this context, my main concern as a professor is I want my students to get better answers. So more answers that are more adapted to a certain context, that do not contain hallucinations. And also, I want to understand how my students are using these tools, okay? The way we can provide better answers is to give our students AI assistants, chatbots that are adapted to a certain domain, and then collect data from these chatbots instead of going to ChatGPT and giving you this chatbot. Okay, this is one of the ideas. They may use your chatbot or they may still go to ChatGPT. In order to get better answers, there are some possibilities. So by default, we have an access to a certain large language model through an interface like the one in ChatGPT. We can make a better prompt, and the better our prompt, the better the answer I will get. We have another alternative that is using RAG. It's a technique, retrieval augmented generation, that I'm going to mention now. We can take the model and fine-tune the model with a specific context information. And of course, we could create our own models, but this is dedicated only to the big tech providers in the market. Okay, so in the middle, I have three options to get better answers. Okay, and comparing them, in order to get these better answers, I have this idea of prompt engineering, so making better prompts. I have this idea of retrieval augmented generation as a technique in which I'm going to provide context information to the chatbot before getting the answer. And I have this idea of getting a model, just fine-tuning part of the model to make it more specific to a certain task. Each of these techniques leads you to better answers, but also to more complexity, cost, and quality, starting from the prompt engineer to the RAG, to the fine-tuning, and the thing that you cannot do, that is training a model from scratch, and that makes no sense today. Okay? So let me go step by step. Regarding prompt engineering, this was something that was trendy in 2023 when ChatGPT was released. So there were a lot of publications on prompt engineering. Now it's the job of the future. You will become a prompt engineer. You just need to improve the kind of prompt, starting by the goal, the role, and then the output, and so on. No? In 2024, this started to be a trend because actually the AI tools can improve the prompts better than humans. So if we provide a certain prompt, we can give it to an AI and get a better prompt as an output. No? So, for example, this was compared in the creation of images. So if you wanted to create an image by a human, you could get a certain prompt, but this prompt could be improved by an AI itself. Okay. This would be one possibility. We still can teach our students how to use AI and try to get better prompts anyway, but this will not be the job of the future. Another possibility was using a fine-tuning approach. So we take an open model. There are some open models like Mistral, Llama, DeepSeek, and then we take this model and we take specific data set and fine-tune the model by modifying the weights in the model. So we expect to get better answers with this fine-tuned model. This is a good approach, but the problem, it takes high computational requirements. DeepSeek has improved a lot on this because the computational requirements for fine-tuning are much lower. All right. And then we have RAG, and the idea of RAG is I'm going to have a knowledge base with a certain data. I'm going to provide an interface, and the student will use this interface with a prompt. Then this system will mix the prompt with the existing data, and all this information is passed to the large language model, who is expected to provide responses that are more aligned to the context of this knowledge data. Okay. RAG has some advantages, and it mainly reduces hallucinations and gives context, which were two of the problems that I mentioned before in the deployment of AI. For example, it's more robust against the noisy information. In case there is no answer, it says, I cannot answer it, instead of just making up the answer. It combines better information that is fragmented in different sources. And if you find counterfacts, it is able to interpret these counterfacts. So in this case, it solves two of the problems that I had before, context and hallucinations. And as you put something in the middle, you can also extract data. And the data that you have, you can collect it, and you can try to analyze to see the behavior of the students. So the three problems that I had before in order to deploy generative AI could be at least partially addressed with this idea of RAG. Let me put some examples on this. One that is a local example at my university, and another one that is at a very relevant university. So the first example that we saw of using RAG appeared in, I think it was late 2023 in Harvard. There is a very famous course on computer science introduction by David Mullen, and they had already an AI assistant, and they used the RAG technique with the knowledge base of content of this course, so that this chatbot could provide answers that were more accurate to that specific context. So this came in late 2023. In our case, we developed the chatbot in early 2024 with this idea of RAG and conducted a pilot that lasted 1 month with our students. And this was for programming. As I work on programming, this was one of the research experiences that we had. So the idea here is we have let's say, all the content in the world, gigantic knowledge base, and we have the large language model. So it was pre-trained with this large language model, and typically a student queries it and gets a response using an interface like ChatGPT. So you separate this, and in the first phase, you create your knowledge base. And this knowledge base is based on the content of your course. Okay? This knowledge base is used together with a query and passed to the large language model in order to get a response that is more adapted to the student. Okay? So in our case, we had two phases. Phase to create the knowledge base, considering the base information that we had in our course, and a second phase that is the interaction of the student with the chatbot. For the first phase, I'm not going into technical details, but we had videos. So we took the subtitles, the closed captions, we had PDFs, we had exercises. So we extracted all this information, we passed it through GPT-4 to get the analysis and embedding models, and we created a database with all this knowledge. In the next iteration, what we did, or in this next phase, what we did was providing an interface for the student that used the prompt, and then we combined the prompt with the knowledge base, with the previous conversation of the student, and some instructions on the behavior of the chatbot. Okay, so we got to this approach. And something important, we got data from our students for the first time. And let me show you a couple of things about the data. We were able to generate the dashboard with the data and then analyze the conversations with the prompt of the student and the answer provided by the chatbot. And here there are a couple of parameters that I had special interest in analyzing. One is the latency of the answer, which was not very high, especially considering the deep research mode that takes several minutes now in order to be able to provide an answer. And something important is the length of the messages. And especially in the case of the students, the length of the messages was very, very short, which means that they are used to talking to AI without actually thinking much on the prompt and without providing much context information. So this was the reason why we felt that we needed to create a chatbot like this one. And the prompts that used longer information were just basically copying and pasting exercises to be solved by the chatbot. Okay, so this was an experiment. The results were good. So most of the students felt that the answers of the chatbot were tailored to the specific course. Okay, this was what we intended. Now the analysis that we're doing is regarding some metacognitive aspects. So we take a full conversation of the student and we try to see how is this conversation. For example, if you want to learn a certain concept, you typically start by the definition of the concept. Then you ask for an example. Then you ask for a test to see if you understood the concept. Then you ask for a complex problem. So this would be a typical sequence of steps. Are the students following this? This is what we are trying to analyze with two concepts that are called interleaving. This is the type of prompt that you're using, and spacing. How much time does it take between one prompt and the other prompt? Okay, and we're running a large pilot at the moment that is happening throughout all this semester with a new version of this chatbot. If you want to learn more about RAG, this technique, there is no magic in it. So there are different ways in which we can implement RAG and different algorithms that can take place in the input, in the retrieval phase, in the generation phase, in the way we show the results, and in the entire workflow or pipeline. So there are algorithms that can be taken in order to improve the results. And it's not also magic. There is criticism on RAG, and here you have a few papers that say that sometimes the results that you get are still not aligned with the specific concepts because the way the embeddings work will not give you the best results. So this is a way of deploying generative AI with care, in a careful way, in our university using these kind of techniques. So let me do some final thoughts to conclude. The first final thought is we have generative AI and we have artificial intelligence. Generative AI is a subset of AI. Many people are talking now of AI when they mean generative AI. It really doesn't matter because AI is the top level, but AI is much more than generative AI. For many years, we have been creating models to predict the behavior of the student. For example, the student follows a certain pattern, and we are able to try to personalize learning, seeing or trying to predict the behavior of the student, or trying to clusterize students in different groups. Now with generative AI, we have the opportunity to do what is called personalization at a scale, to finally have the opportunity to implement personalization at a big scale, detecting patterns and also creating content specific for each student. So I can detect that my student has weaknesses on this, and I can create content on the fly specifically for that student, or give feedback specifically to that student. This is something that can happen now with this technology. So this is my first final thought. The second one is, again, we need to deploy this carefully. We have the best part of generative AI. We can use it in our daily lives. But if we don't know what the student is doing, if the student is lazy, it will become even more lazy. Because you will say, okay, this is the truth. I just trust what the assistant is doing. We can create chatbots with kind of RAG in different ways. So for example, with Notebook LM, you can upload a number of files, and these are used as the base for your chatbot. And you can share this chatbot with other people. So you can create your chatbot locally for your own group use, or for the use of a certain group of people. And there are tools that allow to create chatbots with this idea of RAG. So I upload a bunch of files, and then I get a chatbot, and I can share it with more people. This is chat-based, and it has a business model to allow you to create this kind of chatbots. No? Something that we have seen recently, and it is very curious, is you could create AI assistants that have been or for which content specifically for a certain person have been uploaded. So imagine that you upload all the content that was created by a certain scientist, okay? Then the chatbot will use this content as part of the RAG in order to provide responses. There is an initiative by Andrew Ng, that was the co-founder of Coursera, that is Talk to Your Heroes. And this is the idea of creating AI assistants with content PDF written by certain authors, okay? So we will see probably more about this in the future. Two more final thoughts. One is institutions need to rethink assessment. I mean, we are certifying the knowledge and the skills of the students. And if we do not certify properly, the reputation that universities gain throughout the years will be lost. We will graduate, we will get students that graduate, but they do not have the skills that are expected to. This is important. And we are responsible, last thought, we are responsible for the AI literacy of our own students. So beyond the noise in social media, and you go to Instagram, TikTok, and you will see, okay, this is the new AI tool that will solve all your problems. Before this noise, we need to help students use AI responsibly and ethically and for the right purpose. Okay. One final quote to finish. Again, Salman Khan. I'm a big fan of Salman Khan. This was this quote is from early last year. So he say, I see these Gen AI tools cutting 90% of teachers' admin tasks, hopefully, creating more time for student interaction, so the teacher and the student. So we need to rethink also the time of the teacher, the distribution of the time of the teacher, and the tasks that you have to do. Students will have an AI tutor, sparking an active learning journey, aiding in brainstorming, drafting feedback, making them better writers and learners. This will happen if they use AI properly. If they do not, probably the effect is quite the opposite. I fully agree with the last sentence. This all would have been science fiction a year ago, and it's literally happening now or in the coming months. And we see this evolution. We saw this evolution in 2024, and we keep seeing this evolution in 2025. So that's all. That's all on my side. I think there were quite a lot of things to discuss. It's a topic I'm really passionate for. Of course, you have the recording of the session, and I will give you the slides because there are a lot of references, a lot of tools that I mentioned. But I still hope that this was a productive session for you too.
Thank you, Carlos. Yes, I think it was really, really, really interesting and so complex. I mean, we wouldn't be able to understand the whole complexity of the thing, but I think it was a great, like, first approach. I don't know, guys, if you had any thoughts, any comments, any like you'd like to share.
Yeah, I'd like to share something. I thought that there's a lot of information, obviously, and
Yeah.
it's extremely overwhelming, but I really did like the last part that you shared about kind of like the positives of it, especially as teachers. It gives you more opportunities to interact with your students by using these tools. It helps you to actually be human with one another because we're
Yep.
so consumed with the social media realm that we become isolated as humans. But this tool, even though it's powered in such a strong way, it's giving us the freedom to then have more interactions with each other. And I think
Yeah.
overall that was a very interesting point to make.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, let's say that we work 40 hours a week, and we as teachers have a lot of tasks, and we also have research activities to be done. And so time is limited, no? And you cannot dedicate. I have in the first year course 100 students. In master level, I have 40 students. I cannot dedicate time to each of them. And this is because I have to do all the tasks. So I need to prepare a lot of materials, for example. I need to prepare assessments. I try to give formative feedback whenever I can. So some of these tasks may be partially automated by AI, by generative AI. And something that is more important is we need to understand our students one by one, and this can be done by collecting data of each of them, detecting patterns, and providing this content on the fly or hints or nudges on the fly. I think you're stuck with this. Maybe this content will help you, or maybe this kind of exercise will help you. No? And then we need to put a balance in the time that we have. Maybe have more conversations with the students, but then we need to dedicate less time to other tasks. So this is a shift in the time.
Thank you, Jamal. Thank you, Carlos. I don't know if maybe Malak or Lorena would like to share to say something before we end this session. No.
Yeah, too many information to
It is.
Yeah.
for today's session. But yeah, it's interesting. I always thought, how can we just let students also not depend on ChatGPT for the whole, for their education, for the whole things, for their homeworks, their tasks. So yeah. But I think if we have like good, I mean, like professors can teach them more how to use it in a good way, it would be better because now, no, yeah, in the lectures, like I don't think like the students depend totally on ChatGPT, but they. I don't know. I will explain more now. I mean, the professors, they don't tell them how to use it, so they depend totally on on this with their tasks. That's the problem. Okay, I totally agree that some students are really lazy, but some are not. But this AI thing, it makes us more dependent on it more. Yeah.
Yeah, so I fully agree. It's our responsibility to teach them how to use AI in a good way.
Yeah.
One of the problems I
because
see,
because some students they misuse this and the AI. They don't know how to stop, where to stop, not how to stop, where to stop the plagiarism and etc. That's what I mean.
one of the problems I see is that I'm still surrounded by some teachers that have not really tried these tools. Maybe they did some tests 1 year ago, maybe at the beginning, and they had this feeling that these tools were not very good because they tried something hard. And 1 year ago, these tools were not that good, but they haven't tried the latest versions, and they can do something really, really, really impressive. And if these teachers have to teach students how to use AI, they cannot. And also I have seen teachers that are still very, very reluctant of technology, and they want to keep things as they were before November 2022 with the release of ChatGPT. And I think that day, many things changed. And this is the world we live in now. Our students are using this technology, and we want to use it well, because when they go to a job, they go to the labor market in a company, they are going to use these tools to do many of their tasks, to support them in many of their tasks. So it's important that from the education system, we teach them well.
Yeah, and that's a real problem, because sometimes the students are being really smarter than their teachers with this technology thing. They are more updated with the technology, I think.
At least as end users. So I'm a tech guy, so I always see that my students are very good end users of many different technologies that maybe I haven't used, but they don't know the details. So they don't know how this how this works underneath. So this is why you see a lot of AI tools. Yeah, but underneath you have large language models, and these large language models work as predictors of the next token, of the next word. So you need to know this, no? And everything is built on top of these large language models.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because it is a thought that we always have in the Spanish version of this master. We always discuss if we must let the technology eat us, or if we must fight against technology. But I think that that's the point, was Carlos saying, that is to take the best of technology and to take advantage of technology to keep working when we want to work, and not like feel this anger or fear for technology, because we won't get anywhere, and technology is not going to disappear. So yeah, that's really, really an interesting debate, but I think we need to go farther from that debate and just take the best of technology.
But my quick question is, because the thing I compare it to all the time, generative AI, when I compare it to the idea of the calculator, how in school I was growing up, like, some teachers were totally against calculators, and then the calculators got more sophisticated and, just became easier, more functional. Beside that, the other question I had for you, because we see, like, we look at all of the chat bots, and we like ChatGPT and we look at all the things, how they're next week it's going to be a new version and a new version and a new version. I don't know what the term is, but I feel like traditional schooling is a progressive learning. Like, we do this and we go there. Versus in this sphere, it feels like I can jump to, Chat GPT 6.0 and I'll be fine. I don't have to go through the whole catalog of it. So the question in that is then, as soon as I learn something, I don't want to say unlearning, but I feel like I'm storing up educational tools that then don't exist for me anymore, like next year. And how do you as a coder especially experience that?
That's right. So two things. So first, the metaphor of the calculator is something that I have heard a lot. I see something that is important, and is when there is a new technology that is adopted, sometimes as humans we gain something, but then we lose something, no? And when you learn to do this basic calculation on your own, you started without the calculator, so you are able to do this, still able to do some basic calculation, addition, multiplication, division, and so on your own. I see the next generation, and some people have completely lost that ability. So they are not even able to return the change for a 20 euro or dollar bill, and they need to go and see the calculation because they cannot do calculations directly on their heads. No? It's similar to the, I don't know, the GPS and reading a map and getting directions and just see where to go in a map. Probably here we may lose something. We may lose something. There will be other things that with these tools we will be able to do faster. It's important that what we lose are not very important skills like critical thinking skills, creativity, and so on. No, because otherwise, that would be a terrible next generation. So this is one of the things, and the other thing is this changes very fast. So I mentioned this as exponential growth, and I mean, if you follow the news on AI week after week, the big tech providers are progressing very fast. Some of the tools that I saw at the beginning in 2023, let's say, after ChatGPT in the first few months, have not succeeded and they are not available anymore. Well, that's it. This is part of the market. They did not find a business model. We definitely will use the latest tool, the latest model, I would say more than the tool, because it will be better than the previous one, because it has been trained with more data. It has been trained with better algorithms. So this model will be much better. No? So we just take the latest model, the 4.5 that was released by ChatGPT, or the equivalent Claude 3.7, and this is the one that we're using in our assistants just to get an answer to a certain question. And this will be integrated everywhere. So not only in your mobile phone, this will be integrated in your smart speakers, maybe in your car, maybe in the, I don't know, in your fridge. I don't know, integrated everywhere.
Super, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jamal. Thank you, Carlos. That was really, really, really interesting, but I think we have to leave it here for now because we are on time. But thank you, everyone, for joining today. And maybe, well, I'll write to you, Carlos, tomorrow, maybe, and to
All
ask
right.
you for the presentation.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, you will always have the record on the virtual campus. So thank you again for all of your participation. Thank you, Carlos, for your time. And we see you in a couple of weeks, guys.
Awesome, thank you so
and
much.
Thank
enjoy
you
the rest of
all.
your day. Thank
Yeah,
you. Bye.
likewise. Bye-bye, bye-bye.